Hey, welcome back everyone. How you doing? It's me, Mr. 4K Upscaler. On this video, I'm going to show you my personal calibrations that I use for everyday use. Like this should apply for pretty much universally, should apply for all of your televisions. Pretty much the same. Whatever recipe I give you here, it's going to be pretty much the same across the board on all of your TVs, okay? The only minor difference, it's going to be OLED, okay? If you are calibrating OLED, I highly suggest that you keep that OLED light at 80%. Don't go all the way 100, leave it at 80, all right? So that's my only advice for all of you who have OLED, because I had all three different types of OLED, and keep it at 80. You don't want to leave that light all the way to 100 because you're going to burn. You're going to have a burn in. Then you have to go and refresh that burn in. And it's not good for your OLED, all right? It's expensive TV to begin with, and it's very expensive to be fixed. So you want to keep that OLED light at 80. Same thing with the plasma. You don't want to have that plasma blasting, okay? So you have to keep that in check. With LEDs, it's a different story. With LEDs, they can last forever, man, okay? Police officers on their squad cars, they're using LED vibrant lights because, you know, they don't burn in that easily. So same thing here. You can use LED peak brightness as high as you want. Okay, so now that I have explained that for you in the beginning, let's continue. So remember, these are my universal calibrations that I use for everyday use. Okay, so let's do this. I'm using Tomb Raider on the Xbox One X as an example. It is HDR and it is dynamic 4K resolution, and it's on Samsung KS8000. So let's do this. And remember, this will be pretty much identical for all of the televisions across the board. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go ahead and click on a special viewing mode. I use the game mode pretty much for everything, even for the movies and for the cable. I use it for pretty much everything. And I'm going to show you how I do that here. So let's click on the special viewing mode. Let's hit the game mode, turn it on. Alright, I have the game mode on. And what I'm going to do next, I'm going to go to the expert settings, and you see everything is out of place right now. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to turn the backlit all the way to maximum, okay? Because this is HDR. Now, if you have OLED, that OLED light, keep it at 80 because it's OLED, all right? It's organic light emitting diodes. You want to keep the OLED emitting diodes, that OLED light, you want to keep it at 80. For the Samsung and all of your other LED television sets that you have, you can keep it at maximum. Keep the backlit at maximum, okay? All right, so let's continue. Backlit, let's keep the backlit at 20. Brightness, you want to leave always brightness at 50, because the whole idea of universal calibration is for you to see every detail. If you're crushing your deep dark levels, then you're not going to see what the film director, what game director developers wanted you to see in the game. So you want to see all the details. So let's keep it equal. All right, so backlit maximum, brightness at 50, contrast. Considering this is HDR, we do want to move that contrast all the way high. Okay, keep that sucker all the way high. And you see how HDR now it's picking up that peak brightness here. All right, and you can clearly see it here. All right, you can clearly see it. So sharpness, this is something that everyone's been asking me about, sharpness. And I'm going to tell you right out the gate, you always want to keep sharpness at 0. And it's not just me that's going to tell you this. You can talk to Vincent Teo from HD TV Test. Ask him, he'll tell you that he prefers all of the professional calibrators. Even I asked him, all of the professional calibrators will tell you that you have to keep that sharpness at 0. It's not just me saying this, all of them are saying this. And these are certified professional calibrators, meaning they live and breathe calibration. They know it, they have the equipment, they will tell you keep that sharpness at 0. This is coming from professionals, not from me, from certified professionals. So keep that sharpness at 0. All right, let's go back. Let's review this. So backlit for LEDs, keep it all the way to the maximum. For those of you who have OLED, I don't recommend that backlit, that OLED light. Remember, OLED doesn't have any backlighting. It's organic light emitting diodes. They're emitting by themselves. That's how you get those deep dark levels. So for the OLED light, keep it at 80 because you don't want to burn it. You don't want to burn. That happened to me on a C7. I left it at maximum and it was burning. There were some burn-ins, man. I have to wait a couple of hours till I clean it out. So keep it at 80, okay? Now for those of you who have LEDs, television, LCD backlit LEDs, that's really what's the true name of LED televisions. They're still LCDs, okay? Let's just talk about this honestly. LED televisions are still LCDs, but they're backlit LEDs, all right? They still have that LCD panel, but they're backlit LEDs. So, let's go through this again. Sorry about that. So, for the LCD LED backlit televisions, keep the backlit all the way high. Keep the brightness 50. Keep the contrast at maximum. And of course, sharpness at 0. Now, color, it's 63, but that's only if you want to get a little bit of that color to pops. Normally, since we're doing this for universal use, I would recommend that you keep the color at 50. Okay, because you want to use this for universal use, meaning you want to use this for everyday use. And leaving the color at 50, it's not going to really sacrifice any kind of color loss. You're still going to have that color there, okay? And it's going to look great. As you can see right here. Okay, so you got color at 50. Then tint, I don't mess around with this. I never touch the tint. I always keep the tint as it is. All right? You should never ever mess around with this. This is really for those of you who are doing some kind of photo editing, video editing, and you want to see how your videos will look in certain colors and whatnot, but don't mess around with the tint. Smart LEDs, they're at low. We don't want to do this. We want to take as much of peak brightness, luminous nits light out of this TV. So what we want to do, we want to keep it high. And I'm sure you guys can see that. If you look right over here, you will see when I turn that low, you lose a little bit. You see a little flickering? You lost a little bit of that peak brightness. When I turn it to high, you get it. You see? I don't know if you guys can see it or not. But you want to keep it at high. Smart LEDs at high. Dynamic contrast, I keep it at high because I want to take advantage of that peak brightness. Look what happens when I turn off this dynamic contrast. Look at this. Look at that. Drastic difference. You just lost your peak brightness. So look when I turn it to high. Look where my finger is. You see that? So you want to keep the dynamic contrast high to take the advantage of the HDR peak brightness. If you leave it off, this is what you get. You get a dimmed down HDR. And a lot of people ask me, why does my TV look so dimmed down on HDR? Because you have your dynamic contrast off. You want to make sure you take advantage of that peak brightness. Now you got it. See, you have to keep that dynamic contrast high so you can get that peak brightness out of HDR. So keep it at high. Now, if you're watching non-HDR content, it's still going to look good, okay? It's still going to give you the nice contrast on your television. So keep dynamic contrast high. Color tone, you know, this has been an ongoing debate. A lot of people have been asking me, hey man, I've been having a hard time between warm 1, cool, warm 2, what would be the ideal? Now, every calibrator, professional calibrator out there, and I spoke to some of them, they will tell you they like to keep it balanced between warm yellow and cold blue. That means they don't like too much of that warm, nor do they want too much of that blue. So what they usually recommend is to keep it at standard. And I recommend also to keep it at standard. You can move it to warm 1, but it's going to look too yellowish. Move it to warm 2, way too yellowish. So you want to keep it at standard. Move it to cool, it's going to look too cold, too blue. So you want to keep it at standard. This is, remember, we're doing a universal calibrations. We're looking for the equilibrium. Calibrators, all of the professionals calibrators, they're all looking for equilibrium, equal balance. They're looking for the balance. The key of calibrating is the balance. They want to find the balance so that everything looks balanced from color, contrast, brightness, and sharpness. So keep it as standard. Now, white balance, this is really for somebody who has equipment, all right? The red, green, and blue offset, this is something that you really need to have equipment, okay? Like Caltech, there's all these different calibrating, Kelman, I'm sorry, there's a Kelman software that they use, there's the equipment they use. So you would only do this if you have that Kelman equipment, you know, with a software and the device to measure the color and everything, and luminous light. So you would really need a equipment and the software to measure this and to find out the best possible temperature on the environment that you're in for this television. So this is really for professionals, like a really high-end professionals who have the high-end equipment, okay? So you don't want to mess around with this, okay? If you don't have if you're not professional, and if you don't have any knowledge about this, so what you want to do is you want to avoid 2-point and 10-point offsets, RGBs totally, okay? Because if you mess around with this, your color will be screwed up, your temperature will be screwed up. So don't mess with this. This is really for professionals, like a highly skilled professionals who have equipment and they can get proper. It takes them hours, man. It takes them forever. 6, 7, 8 hours takes them just to adjust this properly. So don't mess with this, okay? That's not just me saying. This is coming from professional calibrators that I spoke to. They told me don't mess with this unless you know what you're doing and you have a proper equipment. So don't mess with the white balance. And the last but not least, Colorspace. You always want to configure your Colorspace settings from a native spectrum of colors. Okay, you can keep it on automatic, and I do recommend automatic, but personally I recommend native. Because with the native color of spectrum, you're definitely going to get that much better wide color gamut. So keep it at native. So this pretty much applies for everyday use. See, now I'm on the game mode. Therefore, the game will look better, will run better, with a much better performance on my controller, meaning that I'm not going to have any input lag as much as I would if I had all these filters. Okay? So this is pretty much for everyday use. You can use these settings for both gaming, watching movies, and watching sports. I use this pretty much for everything. And this is this is pretty much what I use, guys. This is pretty much what I'm using for everyday use. Okay, remember, go to game mode. A lot of these TVs, every single TV has a game mode. Use the game mode. Turn off all the filters. Turn all of these stupid filters like motion, flow, turn that off. That will only going to make your video and your television look like soap opera, and it's gonna be very laggy, so don't want to do that. Turn that off. Remember, keep it on the game mode. Backlit, if you're using an OLED, keep the OLED light at 80. If you're using LED TVs, keep it maximum. Brightness, keep it at the 50. Contrast, keep it at the maximum. Sharpness, keep it at 0 at all times. Color, keep it at 50 because you already got the white color gamut. You already have HDR. You don't need to mess around with the color. Tint, you never mess around with this. And all the filters, digital clean view, turn that off. You don't need that. Auto motion plus, turn that off. You don't need that. All of these filters will make your picture quality look too laggy. It's gonna be too much lag, too much ghosting. So you want to turn that off. Turn all of these things off. Smart LEDs, you want them high because you want to take advantage of that HDR, peak brightness. And of course, dynamic contrast, you want it high to also take the advantage of the peak brightness, which I have shown earlier on this video. And color tone, you want to keep it standard. Between yellow, warm, cold, blue. White balance, you never mess around with this. And another important thing, gamma. Keep the gamma at balanced default level. If you mess around with gamma, you are going to crush your deep, dark levels. Therefore, you won't be able to experience equal balanced picture. And it's not coming just from me. This is something I've spoke to professional calibrators. They told me the same thing. Remember, these are certified calibrators. They told me the same thing. Leave it at the default balanced levels. And of course, Colorspace, keep it at native to get the native spectrum of colors. And that's pretty much it. That's what I'm using, guys, and it looks pretty good. It's smooth, it's for everyday use, looks great, runs great, no issues. Hold on. Let me just jump around here a little bit. There, you guys clearly can see it. It runs smooth, no issues. Here we go again. Here too. Oh no! Wow, that was a big jump. I didn't think I was gonna make that jump. So, all in all, these are the settings that I'm using, and I highly recommend that everybody uses these settings, tries these settings. This is honestly the most universal you'll ever gonna get. Game mode. And this really, honestly, I spoke to a lot of these calibrators, and I met some of them through Twitter, through Facebook. I met a bunch of these people from all different walks of life, okay? And they all tell me this is pretty much what you would need to do to have that nice, equal, balanced, universal calibration picture settings for everything. For the gaming, for the HDR and non-HDR, okay? And that's what you want. There's nothing here that I have put out of balance. Everything is balanced here, guys. So, and it looks great. So make sure you write these things down. Make sure you pause this video, write all of these settings down. The only difference is, remember, OLED light. OLED light, don't use it maximum. Leave the OLED light at 80 or even 77, but they told me OLED light should always be around 80. Leave it at 80, don't exceed it to the maximum. But for the LCD, LED backlit televisions, you can have that backlit all the way high. So there you have it, guys. I use this game as the one example of that. Hopefully this video shows you why I prefer these settings, and you will not be disappointed. I mean, go ahead and try these settings, and this really applies to all of your televisions. They all pretty much have the same calibrating picture settings. They all have pretty much same options, more or less. They have pretty much same options. They're all based on the same principle. They all have to go by the same standard principle of picture settings. All right, so this pretty much applies for every TV out there except OLED. OLED light has to be left at E80. Okay, contrast you can move it up, but the OLED light has to be at the 80. Okay, you don't want to exceed that OLED maximum. That OLED light should never be maximum. Okay, so there you have it. As you can see, it runs smooth. It's great. It's HDR. No issues here. And as I like to call it, smooth as a butter. Here, let's take a screenshot here, man. I haven't taken a screenshot in a while. By the way, this game looks fantastic. I would say if you're gonna choose one game to I have to delete some of my video files. If you're gonna choose one game to show off your Xbox One X beside Forza and Halo 5 and Gears, I would say Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, 20-year whatever edition here, anniversary edition, is the best, really the best way to show off your Xbox One X. And this is definitely a showcase here. This game will definitely showcase what the Xbox One X can do at the moment. So there you have it, guys. Hopefully this video was helpful. Hopefully this video gives you some idea on why it's very important when you are using calibration that everything is equally balanced. All right, and this is not just coming from me. This is coming from professional calibrators who told me to keep everything balanced for everyday use. And what you just saw here, under the game mode, it's being selected for everyday use. Okay, so there you have it. Use these settings and let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. Happy holidays. Stay safe out there, and enjoy your 4K gaming. Enjoy the Xbox One X, man. There are plenty of them in stock. Go ahead and grab one. I mean, buy one. There you have it, guys. Take care. Good to see you all. Take care.